Thank you, Commissioner Cooper, for your kind introduction. And thank you to Rabbi Mintz and the congregation Beth Israel for hosting this really unique community event. I'm grateful to be part of such an esteemed platform of presenters, and I look forward to the enrichment that we'll all enjoy in each other's company tonight. I'd like for you to imagine for a moment that you're an elderly member of our community who's been taken to the hospital in distress, and you've received a diagnosis of coronavirus. You're uncertain of what lies ahead, and you're suddenly thrust into the hands of strangers who can't touch you with ungloved hands, can't speak to you with unmasked lips. Your family's very frightened, not only for your safety, but for their own safety. They don't know exactly how this virus spreads or how it harms people, but they do their best to comfort you in your final hours by phone or by video chat, and your final breath is taken, not alone, but in isolation from your loved ones. Unfortunately, such is the moral distress that's manifested itself over and over in light of the current pandemic. In the healthcare industry, we've been strongly affected over these last few months by the term isolation. Business, we've always used the term isolation to denote patients who are ill and have a potentially contagious disease that we need to prevent from spreading. Some of you may be more familiar with the idea of quarantine, which is the process in which people have been exposed to an infectious disease, but are not yet known to be ill, and they're kept separate from others and monitored. The novel coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic has brought us to an attention of a very interesting aspect of isolation that may not have entered our care planning consciousness in such a unique way as it has today. Older adults and those that are in communal living arrangements, they're being isolated from their families, and we see in many cases they're experiencing physical and mental decline. In the hospital environment, it seems we may have grossly underestimated the positive impact of the physical presence of family or a care partner at the patient's bedside. Over the years of construction and interior design evolution, we've prioritized family connections and even created unique physical space within our patient care areas that facilitate family being in close, comfortable spaces immediately available as a support to the patient. But as the COVID virus has caused us to revise our visitation policies to a more conservative and restrictive visitation platform, we see those empty family areas as an amplification of the isolation that our patients are feeling. We've tried to be more creative and resourceful in utilizing alternate communication forms like Zoom or FaceTime, scheduled phone conferences to fill in for the gaps, but we continue to find that nothing is a substitute for family and the vital and often reassuring presence they are during a very stressful time. It doesn't matter what kind of family one belongs to. I've noticed over the span of nearly 4 decades in hospitals that even in the most strained of family relationships, with years of conflict and bitterness, the patient still prefers to have their family beside them when the end of life may be imminent. If we think about that and we think about our own families, we know that we all have unique relations with each of our family members, and our family is usually the strongest influence in our lives. It sets up our sense of belonging, how we identify ourselves, our names, our backgrounds. We're a compilation of generations of familial DNA. But if we think about how a family is made strong, there are many factors that form that foundation. The most important one is, of course, love. You may instantly think of unconditional love when you think of family. It's the first source of love you receive in your life. Unconditional love is when we don't give up at the first sight of imperfection. We work through the hard times. We endure in the face of unfavorable conditions. When we give unconditional love to someone, we care about the happiness of the other person and will do anything to help that person feel happy, and we do it without expecting anything in return. We also see that loyalty strengthens a family. When you have a family, you're devoted to them. You stick by them through the hard times, and you genuinely celebrate in their happy times. A family supports and backs each other. They stand up for each other in front of a third party trying to harm them. We often hear teenagers say in defense of their younger siblings, "I can do something to them, but I won't let you harm them." That's loyalty. Families also teach us patience. It gets tough sometimes to be patient with our family members, doesn't it? Yet we remain so out of love and respect. Thus, it teaches us patience to deal better with the world. This leads us to think about discipline. Not discipline as a punishment, rather a way that families help us in learning how to meet our needs without hurting or offending others. For instance, when we may be angry, we learn how to keep calm and handle situations in a constructive and nonviolent way. With our family, we share the same values that link us together with ideas like be honest and trustworthy, never give up, add worth to the world, or make the world a better place. Be patient. Take personal responsibility. All these values can be learned as they're observed, discussed, and practiced in our families. Of course, all of this requires that we spend time together as a family. When we spend time with our families and love each other and communicate openly, we're creating a better future for all of us as we learn better to communicate with the world. In the face of this current pandemic, many families are finding themselves with reordered priorities and unexpected time to be together. A throwback, if you will, to the nuclear family, which prior to the pandemic was somewhat replaced by the extended family, sports, activities, friends, school. What a wonderful silver lining it is that in the midst of crisis, we cling to those most familiar and create ways to reconnect. The new term social distancing is perhaps a misnomer. The better term might be physical distancing, because social is really what we need most in the midst of crisis. Using social media, text messaging, video platforms like the one we're using tonight to connect and stay connected is essential now more than ever. Society will survive the coronavirus pandemic, not just because of improved preparedness, but because we'll live with a greater sense of perspective and appreciation of life's small pleasures. From that first bite of a home-cooked meal, to the beauty of your loved ones, to the more present conversations with families and friends. When society is facing a tremendous challenge or there's a big uptick in suffering, people tend to orient themselves in a less self-centered way, in a more family-centric way. That's my hope for all of you. May you and your families be safe and healthy and emerge from this crisis more generous, empathetic, optimistic. Thank you so much.